If stopping to look up the rules kills the moment, you're allowed to move on. Episode 6 is all about rules versus storytelling and where to find the balance. This video is meant to cover when rules matter, when the story matters more, and how to confidently tell the difference between the two. Welcome to StoryForge DM, where I help you become the best DM you can possibly be. Let's start out by talking about what rules are for. Rules are to maintain fairness, consistency, and balance. Without the rules, we wouldn't really have D&D in the first place. The rules help govern fairness between classes, between monsters, PCs, and the like. They help to balance the game and ensure that everybody is on the same page. Of course, rules are naturally there to keep consistency as well. One wizard who is kitted out one way is going to be relatively the same as another wizard kitted out the exact same way. Rules are also there to maintain structure. They help us keep the story moving in a certain way and keep everybody in a sort of unified pattern. But there are so many times when bending the rules needs to be done. The 3 times that I always recommend bending the rules are: number 1, momentum moments; number 2, mass uncertainty about a certain rule; and number 3, particularly emotional beats. Momentum moments are those times where everybody is super hyped about a certain situation. Let's say the barbarian wants to leap up and attack the super tall giant and goes to throw that attack and hits, and then you think, oh, wait a second, we forgot to make a jump check or an acrobatics check. It's in those moments, gloss over it. You don't need to go back and try and hash out the right timing. No, just let it happen. The barbarian has jumped up, swung his axe, hit the target, and it makes for a really cool scene. There's no point in trying to kill the momentum by trying to go back in and look at this particular rule. Another example where, say, emotions can be high or we have specific emotional beats is when, let's say, the wizard throws a fireball into a room at a bunch of goblins. Let's say everybody at the table thinks that the radius of the fireball is 30 feet. Whether they're right or wrong, there's no point in jumping in to review the rules at this point. Let the fireball go off, hit everybody, err on the side of having an awesome story. That's really the most important thing. And we got to remember this as we move along. When it comes down to it, D&D is about collaborative storytelling. Rules uncertainty can pop up quite often as well. And this is one of those situations where oftentimes it's way better to just go with the group and everybody agree on how to adjudicate a particular rule at that particular time, rather than spending all this time killing the momentum, ruining particularly emotional situations in order to get a rule right. Keep the story flowing, keep the game moving, and check the rule out after. Or better yet, have the PC that initiated the rule check it out after. So if, let's say, you wanted to look up that running jump to attack with the axe because you forgot it as the barbarian, no problem. Let the story play out and then go back and check the rule afterwards. That way you can make sure that you're all having fun and that the game still moves, and of course, most importantly, the story still moves. You don't want to spend the whole time there getting bogged down by particular rules or the like. One of the things I like to do every once in a while is what I call a character audit. Now, this isn't going to be at your first session. It might be at session 0, but it's probably not going to be at your second session either. Character audits can happen usually by the time they hit level 3 or level 4, or if they've done something, the character has done something that is pretty amazing and outstanding. Now, you don't always have to do this, but as a DM, you want to regulate fairness. You want to make sure that everybody is being consistent with their characters and they are following the rules a bit. Again, you're the narrator of this story, and everybody's got to feel equal within it. What I mean by auditing characters is ask a player for a copy of their character sheet. Take a look at it, run it by the rules, and just make sure it makes sense. If it doesn't make sense, ask the PC, hey, what is going on with this rule? I don't see how you have this much to hit or this bonus or that. And generally speaking, they'll have an answer. Or perhaps they mess something up. It happens all the time, and it's prone to happen, especially in D&D, because there's so many rules. One thing you're going to want to do as a DM is make fast rulings. This keeps everything moving, chugging and propelling forward. What do I mean by making fast rulings? Sometimes in certain situations, like when the barbarian wants to do the jump, you just go, yep, great job, you've done it good. Or you may just make up an arbitrary DC, difficulty challenge, in order to ensure that something happens. Let's say, for instance, the barbarian wants to make that jump and it looks like a cool scene in your head. Forget looking up the rules, just go, okay, you know what, the DC is gonna be 8. And if he makes an acrobatics check and it hits that 8, you're like, awesome. That makes for a cool scene and of course gives that air of success for the player. Some things you want to look at when making fast rulings: is it fair? Does it make sense? And is it fun? If you're hitting those 3 things with your fast rulings, you're doing a good job. Another thing you might want to do is, as a DM, when you're throwing dice, you can sort of manipulate those dice behind your DM screen. If you throw a crit and you know that that particular character is on 1 hit point, it's perfectly okay to say, oh, he missed. The player is going to feel like, oh my goodness, thank the Lord that I was missed, because otherwise they could likely lose their character. Contrarily, sometimes when you have a PC that maybe has incredibly high AC, you can manipulate the dice to have your monster hit here or there. Another thing that's considered fun at times, and we've done it at our table, is rolling openly. As a DM, every once in a while, throw the dice openly so everybody can see. When you do that, it shows honesty, and of course, people can't argue what's come up on the dice. So if that crit does come up and it's open and the target has 1 hit point, c'est la vie. Looks like somebody's going to be likely making a new character. Because we're trying to make the story move forward and we might be arbitrarily making up new rules or fast ruling certain things, we may have to fix mistakes later. When you go to fix mistakes, make sure that you own it. Make sure that you clarify it for next session and of course future sessions. And make sure that you do this because it will maintain trust within the table. Nobody wants to feel like the DM is against them. And honestly, this is one of the big things with being the DM, is often you might feel like it's my monsters versus you guys, or my story versus you guys. And this is where that mindset shift comes into play, because we can't feel like that. That's not fair. Again, it's collaborative storytelling. So everybody's working together, everybody's in it together. And the more togetherness that we as DMs feel with the PCs or the players, the better the story is going to turn out overall. Something you might want to do when there is a rule dispute that comes up and you decide to fast rule it, and maybe one of the PCs at the table argues with you and says, you know what, I don't think that's correct. You go, you know what, write it down, and you can do the same on your notes, and we'll address it after the session. The reason, again, being is it helps to perpetuate momentum within that certain situation or scene. The other thing that you might want to think about is when you're doing session 0, let them know about how you like to fast rule or how you might fast rule certain situations. That will again set proper expectations up from the beginning so that during the game there isn't sort of friction or the like between you and the PC. One of the things with DMing is of course storytelling, and as per the name of this episode, it's rules versus storytelling. Here's the thing, you can use the NPCs to perpetuate the story as well. You can also use them to help work on house rules or rules that you've come up with. So let's say, for instance, there's an alchemist in town who's really aligned with a particular deity. Perhaps that alchemist helps the PCs to gain some lore knowledge about that particular deity. And if you want to go a step further, you can even have that deity align with one of the deities of your players. Where you can get creative with the rules is you can say that alchemist has particular potions that maybe you've made up. Maybe these potions do certain things that are outside of the box. Like, for instance, in our bar in one of our campaigns, they made drinks that would give the particular imbiber spider climb for 12 hours. Kind of a cool effect. The biggest thing to remember, if anything, is that great DMs aren't born, they're forged. Thanks for tuning in to StoryForge DM. Hit subscribe and check us out. Next episode is going to be all about the mistakes that new DMs and old DMs make and how we can fix them. Look forward to catching you. drop a comment with some of the things you do when rules go awry in your campaigns. Catch you next time.